fabulous to be back with you here again. We came all the way from the UK to get COVID. Now, isn't that a nice gift to get? We're clear now, so you don't have to worry. Well, you have to give us something, don't you, you know? Well, what we're going to do, friends, I'm going to give a short reading, and then Al is going to give the lecture. The reading is entitled My Book of 1887. It has been said that it is the big important things that unite men, and the little unimportant things that divide them. So it follows that if all religions base themselves purely on the universal teachings of which they all agree anyway, all mankind would be united. But it is the unimportant man-made dogmas and personality cults which divide us. It is a supreme irony that we all line up in rival queues behind the very masters who came to form us into one big queue behind God. In spiritualism, we endeavour to base our philosophy on the universal teachings which the masters taught and which those in the higher realms of spirit life still teach. If you were to base our philosophy on the personality and the significance of Jesus, we would soon fall into the old trap of worshipping the messenger and forgetting the message, and of basing our religion on what church teaches us about Jesus rather than what Jesus teaches us about spiritual truths. Today in spiritualism, we are promoting the universal teachings in much the same way that Jesus did. Our demonstrations of clairvoyance contain much the same sort of material which featured in the story of Jesus and the woman at Jacob's well. Sometimes not on a high spiritual level which would appeal to the orthodox, but on a level that can be reached by the person to whom help and understanding is given. Physical seances such as that on the Mount of the Transfiguration are now sadly a rarity in our movement, but where they exist, they prove the touchable reality of spirit life and provide an experience for the lucky ones which forever robs death of its sting. And whereas less than 10% of Orthodox churches carry out the injunction of Jesus to heal the sick, the proportion of spiritualist churches offering spiritual healing is close to 100%. When spiritualism calls itself a universal religion rather than a Christian one, it is often wrongly presumed to be declaring itself against Jesus. The paradox is that by its adherence to the universal teachings, it may be closer to the ideals of Jesus than Christianity itself, closer to the ideals of the Buddha itself and closer to the ideals of Muhammad than Islam itself. For spiritualism is unique in two particular ways. Firstly, it is the only religious movement which has no charismatic personality as its centre. And secondly, it is the only religious movement emphasising our spiritual heritage and destiny in the same way the Master did by the use of psychic phenomena. Like them, spiritualism presents realities as matter of fact and matters of faith. Give me to know God as my Father, guide and friend, and all other knowledge that science can give will only enlarge my conception of his wondrous power and goodness. Here's Al. If I can stand up without falling down. Good morning.
Good morning.
I chose that particular reading, I should say, because it leads me into a thought of what has happened to religion. It's a question that I think many people ask nowadays, because our world has really changed, and not always for the better. And somehow religion has become politicized.
I find it in our country, in the UK, as well as in the United States, and pretty much all around the world, where religions of various types are, in a sense, in control of government thinking. Now, I'm not going to get onto a political talk, because that wouldn't be very good. I might offend some people. But what I'm going to say is that religion really, when I think of spiritualism, in the beginning it was not intended to be a religion. It was organized for social reform, to help the poor. But because, and I know it's probably the same here, in the United Kingdom, in order to be recognized, we had to become a religion. And to become a religion, and to have our churches or our centres, we had to provide principles that were going to be accepted by our government. Just as you have your principles here that you recite at the beginning of the service, ours are slightly different. They were given to us through the transmediumship of an American lady called Emma Hardinge Britton, through the transmediumship of Robert Owen, who was a great socialist and founder in the United Kingdom of the cooperative society. But we've had to become a religion in order, as I say, to have our lovely churches, our lovely centres. But really, has it helped us all that much? Because I look at our world today, has mankind improved through becoming a religion? Because originally when the Master Jesus came, as many other prophets came before him, they brought God's message of love, compassion, healing, understanding. But of course, just the same as we have today, he was condemned for bringing that wonderful message. And now we look at the many religions that have grown out of this original message brought by the Master Jesus. We have so many religions now, it's hard to count them. And everyone believes they have the right God. Theirs is the only one. In spiritualism, of course, we don't look at God through the same eyes. We tend to believe in a universal consciousness, a creative energy that runs through everything within this, not just this world here, but the entire universe. And that energy pervades through each and every one of us. We cannot be where that energy is not, because without that wonderful energy, we couldn't survive on this physical plane. Now, I'm always going to give you my own opinion. You don't have to agree with me. That's the beauty of spiritualism, because we find our own level of acceptance. And my level may not be your level. It doesn't mean that yours is wrong and mine is right, or mine is wrong and yours is right. It means that we are all at a different level of acceptance. I always love to look up sayings, because I like to search for the truth. I once had a medium in our church, and I said to her, "How do I announce you?" And she said, "I'm a fully developed medium." No such thing, friends. We are all developing continuously. We're all learning and all growing. I don't know when we'll ever become fully developed, because we'll have many stages of learning to go through. So I felt rather sad for the medium, because she thoroughly felt that, she'd made it. She was at the top. Oh well, never mind. Takes all kinds to make a world, doesn't it? But I think truth is the main thing. That's what I search for, because truth is reality. And what is reality? Sufi said, reality is that which, when it when you stop believing in it, it doesn't go away. I'll say that again. Reality is that when you stop believing it, it doesn't go away. Now, isn't that true? You know, we can try to hide the truth, but it's there. It doesn't go away. And you know, we have to try to live our lives here through the natural laws of the universe. A very hard thing to do. Because we chose to come into this physical body. We chose to come in it so that we can refine the soul through our learning, through the mistakes that we make, through the good things that we do, refining our soul so that when we move and we're ready to end this task on the earth plane, we will begin the next task of our lives in the next phase of life that Andrew Jackson Davis said. He came back to tell us there were 7 phases of existence, and we're living in the first one now, and that we will move from this phase into the second phase in the etheric world, the second phase of consciousness. But within each one of those phases of consciousness, there are many other different levels. And so what we are doing, we're refining our soul so that when we move to that next phase of consciousness, we will be happy with the level that you and I will elevate to. You know, if we go somewhere where we're not very happy, who do we have to blame but ourselves? Having said that, it is not an easy job. We all know what each and every one of us has to face in life. You know, and life is not, you know, full of rose-tinted things that, you know, everything is wonderful. We have to face up to difficulties. We're facing up to a difficult time at the moment with this pandemic. I don't think any one of us expected it. And at first no one really knew how to handle it. But as we go along, we learn and we grow and we expand and we get that extra knowledge that helps us to handle all the different things that are thrown at us through this physical life. And boy, if you're anything like us, there's been plenty that's been thrown at us. But you bounce back. Hopefully you bounce back. And you learn that these things are actually sent to test us. And that by learning to overcome, that is the greatest gift of all. You know, there are so many people that sit all day and moan, oh, poor me. Well, we could all do that, couldn't we? But poor me doesn't get us anywhere. The answer is, why not me? And I love that because, you know, if we think we're coming to this earth plane and everything is just going to be wonderful, oh dear, what a shock we're in for. Because we chose to come here so that we could experience those different conditions and learn how to handle them so that we can overcome them so that we don't have to go through them again. Now, if you're anything like Jeff and myself, we've gone through them time and time again. But hopefully, we'll reach the top of that mountain and overcome it and never have to face that again. Yeah, I love special sayings. I really do. And I was looking at the television this morning before we came away. And you have it, I mean, no matter what channel you go on to, you've got the problem of we're expecting problems within the Ukraine. Russia is going to attack. America's going, the UK and Europe are going to try to avoid it. Pessimism all of the time. And yet we have to sit and learn through that. But you know, war is a terrible thing. War does not define who is right, only who is left. Now you've got to think of that one. War does not define who is right, only who is left. And we look at those who are left, some whose lives have been changed drastically through war conditions, those who have lost their trust and their faith in a reality, in a religion, because of the effect it's had on their minds. Yet Spirit never leaves us. It's not Spirit that decide that they're going to step aside and leave us. It's us that makes that decision. But we have to learn to trust, friends. We have to really learn. We cannot work up here unless we trust in Spirit. The minute we lose that, we lose all contact with those who give their time to help us. And so I think so much about that word trust, because it's so important. And I think to myself, we've both gone through periods of time, I hear you, so I get the nudge from behind saying you've said enough. And the minute that we lose that trust, we may as well just go home and not bother coming out. But we have to learn to develop that trust. Learn to know that it's only us that will let ourselves down, never Spirit. I'm looking for a lovely saying, and I can't. Oh yes, right, I found it. I love collecting sayings, you see, and I love Rumi the Sufi. He said, "Keep the company of those who are searching for the truth. Run away from those who have found it." And that is so true. We had a gentleman who used to come to our church. He used to hand the hymn books out at the door. And when the medium was on, the speaker doing their lecture, he'd be going to me, sitting on the platform. Get her off, get them off. So I said, "Why are you doing that?" He said, "Well, I've heard it all, I know it all." Well, that's the first time I've met someone that knows it all. We never know it all. We never stop learning, never stop searching. So can I just say to you, friends, never stop learning, never stop looking and searching. Because, hey, it won't come looking for us. We have to make that effort and look towards the Spirit. They'll be there to help us. They'll be there to send love to us. But we must reach out that hand to them and let them know that we are welcome to blend with their energy, because that's what we need to do. Thank you very much.